Well, good morning. Dr. Glen here with another Monday morning motivation. So I'm going to be a little bit mean this morning. We're going to talk about the effects of processed sugar on our bodies and on our children's bodies. And we're doing that today because, well, we know that within a few hours this evening, we're actually sending our kids out to collect a whole bunch of this stuff in the form of Halloween candy and then bring it back into the house. We're going to have all these challenges in terms of, well, no, we shouldn't be eating that and just have one piece here and there. And we need a little bit of information to actually discuss this with our kids properly. So this is the effect that processed sugar has on our bodies and why it's not healthy, why we shouldn't have any of this candy to start with. So let's back up a little bit. First of all, we have to discuss what sugar is. Sugar is a carbohydrate and it's absolutely required by our bodies. We need it for energy. It comes along, carbohydrates are broken down into sugars, starches, and fibers. So we need this stuff. In the sugar industry, it's kind of funny, it's very quick to point out that once we metabolize whatever the food source is and get it into that basic glucose molecule, it doesn't matter where it came from. Glucose is glucose and it has the same effect on our bodies. And they're right, but they're kind of missing the whole point. The way that our body metabolizes that first food source into glucose has drastic differences in terms of the health or the stress or the toxicity that it will have on our bodies. So let's look at two different ways that our body processes a carbohydrate. The first one is a long chain starch, a healthy starch that we should be consuming. First of all, as I said, it's a long chain. So it's very tough for the body to break it down. It breaks down slowly, so we don't get that big spike of blood sugar in our body. Now, it also metabolizes it properly, so the body's aware of what's happening. The glycemic and insulinemic effect that our body has tells our brain and our body what's going on and tells us that we don't need more of this. So it actually shuts down the satiation center in our brain, so we don't want to eat more of this. All very normal and natural to make sure that we have the right amount of level blood circulating glucose for energy. Absolutely amazing how our bodies can work and regulate this stuff if we eat the right stuff. Now, what happens if we eat a piece of Halloween candy? Well, now we're dealing with very simple sugar, sucrose, let's say, or high fructose corn syrup. So these are simple molecules, and they're going to get broken down and metabolized very, very quickly in the body. And now this is going to lead to a spike in the blood glucose, not just because it's metabolized quickly, but this happens actually in the liver. It kind of bypasses some other processes, so we don't get the glycemic response or the insulinemic response, so the body's not even really coping with it the same way, not even aware. Actually, what happens is it'll go into the brain and actually stimulate release of dopamine, which is kind of the feel-good molecule, and that's going to make us want to actually eat more and more and more sugar, completely out of what I would say is our normal control. And you can see how now we're going to get this huge blood sugar spike, and it's just going to lead into more and more and more of a blood sugar spike. Very, very different process with very, very different end results. Now, I can't go through and list all the changes that happen when we start eating too much or any refined sugars. To give you just a few to understand how devastating this is to our bodies and how it's actually killing our bodies and changing the health of our children, I'll list a few. Insulin resistance leading to type 2 diabetes, obesity and all of the obesity related issues that we have, metabolic syndrome, increasing risk of cancer, increasing bad cholesterol circulating through our bodies, even the things that we see in day-to-day practice as a chiropractor, increasing circulating inflammation in our body leading to joint pain, memory processing changes, learning ability, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder increases, on and on and on. Simple sugars are killing us and our children. I can't stress that enough. So why do we give it to them? I don't know. I know my kids are going to get a few pieces tonight. That's definitely a parenting challenge. I've got my opinions around it and how we deal with it, but I don't think they're perfect. So that's the background information, hopefully to stimulate you and your partner and your kids to have a little bit of discussion about why we should be consuming Halloween candy, or maybe why we should be getting it out the door and maybe trading it for a toy or something else. Food for thought. Hope you enjoyed this morning's conversation on Halloween candy and processed sugars. You know where I am. If you have any concerns or questions or want a few tips in terms of how not to have the Halloween candy in your house, you know where I am. Dr. Glen at rfwellness.ca. Have a happy and very safe Halloween with your kids out there, and I'll see you next Monday morning.